everybody, welcome back to Scoutcraft Basics. In this module of rope work, we're continuing to talk about knots and different things you can do with ropes and bindings and so forth. Today we're going to be discussing the square knot. Now the first thing I want to do though, before I get into how to tie the square knot, I want to tell you a little bit of history with it. This is an ancient knot, and if you look it up, that's kind of where it talks about it. It's ancient, and the reason is because we don't really know where it came from. It's been around for millennia. It goes back, there's writings and drawings of it being used back in the Roman times and before. It's a binding knot, and basically what that means is, let's say you have a package and you want to bind it. Tie a string around it. You see that a lot in the old movies with the packages you buy at the store. Now we gift wrap them and use tape. Well, they didn't have tape, so they'd use a length of twine or something like that and then bind it together, and that binding knot was the square knot. You also found it used in the navies of old, and what you had with that was they might tie it around their locker, their foot locker, or more often than not, their bag. And so they would have the bag up, they'd tie it around it, and you'd bind it down, it would hold. Now, and we'll show you here in a little bit, the thieves knot. The thieves knot has some interesting history with it, because our lore tells us that in times past, the sailors would put a thieves knot on it, because automatically, once you learn a square knot, it's easy to tie. So if you tied a thieves knot on it, which is real similar but not quite the same as a square knot, then you would know someone had been in your stuff. I don't know what good it would do you, aside from the fact you knew it was there, but nevertheless. Let's talk first about an overhand knot. Now I'm going to use this big piece of rope to tie an overhand knot. And overhand knot, the reason I'm telling you showing you how to do it, it's a knot most people know how to tie. But I want to make sure that when I refer to it, when tying a square knot, that you understand what we're talking about. Overhand knot's real easy. I'll show you a couple times, and I won't worry about going into great detail, because you're going to know how to tie it and you'll recognize it. And as you can see from my breath, even though I'm inside, and yes, I have the heater going behind me, it's a cold morning here, and at our camp. So let's first though talk about the overhand. Overhand knot's real easy. It's exactly what it sounds like. Left hand over top of the right, bring it through, and you tie it into that right there. So basically you can see, oops, sorry about that. You can see the overhand knot. So I'll show you one more time. This is a long piece of rope, but I didn't have a much shorter rope to be able to do it with that you could see. So once again, kind of go over the top, reach through, you pull it, overhand knot. Now I show you that because the square knot is made up of a couple overhand knots. And to show you how to tie the square knot today, I'm going to use two different pieces of rope. Primarily so we have two different colors. Now keep in mind, the square knot is not designed to bind two pieces of rope together. It's designed to bind around something. But for this purposes, I want you to be able to see the difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple times and walk you through it, then we'll flip the camera around and do it again from a different angle. But basically what you want to do is tie a left overhand, exactly like we just did. So take your left hand, put it over the rope in your right hand, reach through, but don't pull it all the way. We're just going to pull it enough to have a little bit of play in it. Don't pull it like I did on that overhand knot. Then we're going to tie a right overhand knot. The right hand over the left, and pull it through and pull it close. Now, when we're finished with this square knot, you're going to see that, number one, I can move it back and forth real easy like that. Also, both ends are on the top, or for that matter, they'd be on the bottom, but they're on the same side. They're on the same side. Now, here's another thing to keep in mind. Once again, that loop, and if I flip it over, you'll see that loop here, is all on the same side. That's what makes it a square knot or a reef knot. So once again, I'm going to walk you through that again, then we're going to flip the camera around. So I'm going to do it a little bit closer so you can see it. So you're going to tie a left overhand. So you take what's in your left hand, put over your right, and pull it through, and pull it enough to be able to have some working rope. And then tie a right overhand. So take the right over the left, push it through, pull it tight. Now, let's flip the camera around and you'll be able to see from the other side exactly how I do it from your point of view. Try a left overhand and then a right overhand. Now let's get back around to the other side of the camera. So hopefully, hopefully that makes sense. The square knot is one of the most basic knots. Now what we'll do, we'll continue to build on this knot. In our next episode, we'll be talking about the half hitch. And the half hitch is a great way to ensure and to secure the square knot. And we'll talk about that next time. We'll talk about how to do a half hitch and 2 half hitches, which is also one of your basic knots. And then also how to use it as a securing knot. First, though, I told you I'd tell you about the thieves knot. So in a square knot, it's a left overhand and then a right overhand. So they're opposite. In a thieves knot, I'll show you how to tie it. It's a left overhand and then another left overhand. Now here's the interesting thing about it. If you don't pay close attention, it looks a lot the same. It doesn't move quite as freely because it binds on itself, but my pieces are still on top. But as you notice, that loop is not on the same side. So it's real easy. It looks like a square knot when you first glance at it, and imagine doing it in dark in the hull of a ship. But once again, it doesn't have the movement and it doesn't have the binding potential. As you see, that came completely undone. So that's your thieves knot. I wanted to show you that because we did talk about, once again, the square knot, one of your basic knots. And also, once again, remember, it's called the reef knot. It's got other names as well. Next episode, we'll be talking about the half hitch and the 2 half hitches. And then we'll continue on to the point where we've gotten you through all your basic knot tying requirements. And also, we're going to move right after that into some more rope work with lashing and take care of that. And ultimately, down the line, we'll have a pioneering projects. So we'll talk about some camp gadgets and some bridges and different things like that we'll be building. If you got questions, as always, feel free to contact me on Facebook or Instagram or through YouTube, or just send me an email. All my contact information is at the end of this video. Once again, thank you for checking in at Scoutcraft Basics. We'll see you next time.